London, February 2015. The rain hammered against the windows of the Finsbury Park nursing home like bullets from a forgotten war. In room 217, a man who had legally died 17 years ago sat staring at a photograph. His name, his current name, was Arthur Townsend. 76 years old, retired plumber, widower, the kind of invisible old man that nurses walked past without a second glance. But his real name was Brian Reader. And once upon a time, Scotland Yard had called him the Master. The photograph in his trembling hands showed a young woman, beautiful, blonde, standing outside a house in Richmond that now cost more than most people earned in a lifetime. His estranged daughter, Sarah, 43 years old, diagnosed with aggressive breast cancer 6 weeks ago. The treatment she needed wasn't available on the NHS. Private clinics in Switzerland, experimental therapies, £1 million, maybe more. Brian placed the photograph face down on his bedside table and picked up his mobile phone, a battered Nokia that looked like it belonged in a museum. He scrolled to a number he hadn't called in over a decade. The phone rang twice. Hello? The voice was gravelly, suspicious. Terry, Brian said slowly. It's the Reader. Silence stretched across the line like a held breath. Brian Bloody Reader, the voice finally said. I thought you were dead. I was, Brian replied, but I need to come back. One last job. We're old men, Brian. I'm 67. I've got arthritis in both knees. What could we possibly... Hatton Garden. The silence that followed was different now. Electric. Charged. You're insane, Terry Perkins whispered. Probably, Brian agreed, but I know how to do it. I've been watching for 3 years. Every security protocol, every shift change, every weakness, Easter weekend, 4 days, minimal police presence. The vault will be holding over 200 million in diamonds and cash. 200 million, Terry's voice cracked. Are you in? Another long pause. Then, I'll make some calls. 3 weeks later, the Castle Pub, Islington. They called themselves The Firm, but anyone watching would have seen nothing more than a group of pensioners sharing a Sunday roast. The average age at the table was 63. Combined, they had served over 40 years in prison, and combined, they had never, not once, been caught for the crimes they'd actually committed. Brian Reader sat at the head of the table, a glass of untouched whiskey before him. To his left sat Terry Perkins, 67, a former locksmith whose hands still remembered every tumbler and pin. To his right was Danny Jones, 58, the young one, a fitness fanatic who could still bench press 200 pounds despite his graying temples. Across from them sat John Kenny Collins, 74, whose specialty was logistics, cars, routes, timing. The man had never received a single parking ticket in his life because he understood movement the way poets understood language. And at the far end, nursing a pint of bitter with hands that shook slightly, sat Carl Wood, 58 years old, the one Brian hadn't wanted to invite. Carl, Brian said quietly, I need to ask you something, and I need the truth. Carl looked up, his eyes bloodshot. Ask. The Brinks Mat job, 1983. You were questioned for 17 hours. You never gave them a single name. That's right. But you were released without charge. No deal, no conditions. Brian leaned forward. I've always wondered why. The table fell silent. Carl's jaw tightened. They let me go, Carl said slowly, because I gave them something better than names. I gave them a body. Brian felt ice crawl down his spine. Whose body? Someone who was already dead. Someone who needed to disappear. The Met closed 3 cases with that body. They didn't need me anymore. Whose body, Carl? Carl lifted his pint glass and drained it. Mine to know. Are we doing this job or not? Brian studied Carl's face for a long moment. Something was wrong. Something was hidden. But they needed a 5th man, someone to handle the heavy drilling equipment. We're doing it, Brian finally said. Easter weekend, 13 days. But as the group dispersed into the London night, Brian caught Kenny's arm. Follow Carl, he whispered. I want to know everywhere he goes, everyone he talks to. Kenny nodded and disappeared into the shadows. 7 days before the heist. The drilling equipment arrived at dawn, delivered to a storage unit in Enfield, by a lorry with no plates. Inside were 3 industrial Hilti DD350 diamond core drills, capable of cutting through reinforced concrete like butter. But when Danny Jones opened the crates, he found something else. A sealed envelope. Inside was a photograph of a man Danny had never seen. A silver-haired American in an expensive suit standing outside a building Danny recognized immediately, the FBI field office in New York City. On the back of the photograph, a handwritten note. "I know what you're planning. I know when you're planning it, and I want 30%, or this photograph, and the 8 others I have, go to Scotland Yard. You have 48 hours to respond. Leave your answer at the dead drop. You know the one, Danny." Danny's blood ran cold. He hadn't used a dead drop since 1987, a loose brick behind St. Mary's Church in Islington. He'd used it once, to communicate with an American art dealer who'd helped him fence 3 Picasso sketches stolen from a private collection. The art dealer's name was Marcus Webb. Danny had heard he was dead, murdered in Boston in 1994. Apparently, the dead weren't staying dead anymore. That night, Danny met Brian in a deserted car park in Wembley. "Someone knows," Danny said, showing him the photograph. Brian studied the image, his expression unreadable. The man in this photo is Jacob Sullivan, Deputy Assistant Director of the FBI's Art Crime Team, retired last year, lives in Connecticut now. "How do you know that?" Brian looked up, his eyes cold. "Because I sold him information once, 15 years ago. Location of a stolen Vermeer. He paid me $200,000 and promised we'd never cross paths again. Why would a retired FBI agent want a cut of a London burglary? He wouldn't." Brian pocketed the photograph. "Someone is using his image to scare us. Someone who knows our history. Someone who's been watching us for a very long time." "Carl?" Brian shook his head. "No, Carl's too stupid for this. This is someone else. Someone from the inside." "Inside what?" Brian didn't answer. Instead, he handed Danny a burner phone. "Go to the dead drop. Leave a message agreeing to the terms, then wait. Whoever picks it up, follow them. And if they spot me..." Brian's smile was thin as a blade. "They won't. You're 60 years old, Danny. You're invisible." Easter weekend, April 2nd, 2015, 9:47 p.m. The building at 88 to 90, Hatton Garden, stood silent in the darkness, a fortress of Victorian brick hiding one of the largest private safe deposit facilities in Europe. The firm had entered through a fire escape door on the ground floor, its lock disabled by Kenny 2 weeks earlier during a routine inspection disguised as a building code violation. Now standing before the vault door, a massive steel slab weighing over 3 tons, Brian felt something he hadn't experienced in decades. Fear. "It won't work," Carl said suddenly. Everyone froze. "The drill," Carl continued. "The concrete behind this door isn't 20 inches. It's 32, reinforced with iron rebar. No way we cut through before dawn." Brian turned slowly. "How do you know that?" Carl's face was pale in the torchlight. "Because I helped install it. 1997, 16 months after I got out of prison." Silence crashed through the basement like a wave. "You built this vault?" Danny's voice was barely a whisper. "Part of it. They hired ex-cons for the labor, kept costs down, and they figured we knew security better than anyone." Carl pointed to a section of wall 3 feet to the left of the main vault door. "But there's a flaw, right there. The plans called for 32 inches of reinforced concrete, but we ran out of rebar. For a 12-inch section, it's just poured concrete, no reinforcement." Brian stared at Carl for a long moment. "Why didn't you tell us sooner?" "Because I wasn't sure I wanted to help you. And now..." Carl's eyes drifted to something far away. "Now I don't have a choice. The man who contacted Danny, Marcus Webb, I know him. He's my brother-in-law. He faked his death in '94 to escape a federal indictment. He's been living in London for 6 years, and he's the one who told me about this job in the first place." The revelation landed like a bomb. "You were sent here," Terry demanded. "Recruited," Carl corrected. "Webb wanted a crew. Experienced. Disposable. He found me. I found you." Brian's mind raced. "Where is Webb now?" "Waiting. In a flat in Whitechapel. When we finish, When we have the diamonds, he takes his 30% and disappears. Those were the terms. And if we refuse? Carl's laugh was hollow. He has files on everyone. Kenny's tax evasion, Terry's involuntary manslaughter charge from '73, the one that got mysteriously dropped, Danny's Picasso job. He paused. And Brian, he has the original police report from the night your wife died. Brian's face turned to stone. That accident wasn't an accident, was it? Carl continued softly. She was going to testify against you. Brinksmat. She was the unnamed witness. And then, conveniently, her car went off the road. The basement fell silent except for the hum of the drills. Start cutting, Brian finally said. We finish the job, then we deal with Webb. April 3rd, 2015, 1:33 a.m. The drill broke through at 1:33 in the morning. Behind 20 inches of concrete and plaster, a cavity opened into the vault. Danny, the smallest of the group, squeezed through first, his torch illuminating walls lined with safe deposit boxes. 72 boxes total, each one a mystery, each one potentially worth millions. Start with the large ones, Brian's voice crackled through the radio. Diamond dealers, cash reserves, left wall, middle row. Danny moved like a ghost, his lockpicks dancing across the ancient mechanisms. Box after box fell open, revealing stacks of cash, hundreds, 50s, 20s, all in used, untraceable bills. Diamonds glittered like frozen stars. Gold coins, jewelry that predated the British Empire. By 3 a.m. they had filled 11 duffel bags. By 4 a.m. they discovered something else. Box 4217 was larger than the others. Reinforced. Its lock required a key that didn't exist in Danny's collection. Leave it, Brian ordered. I can get it open, Danny insisted. Give me 5 minutes. We don't have 5 minutes. Leave it. But Danny had already started. His drill bit into the lock mechanism, and the box exploded. Not with fire, but with papers, hundreds of documents, photographs, financial records, and a name that appeared on every single page, Operation Blackstone. Danny grabbed a handful and stuffed them into his jacket. Whatever this was, it wasn't jewels. It was secrets. And secrets, Danny knew, were worth more than diamonds. April 5th, 2015, Easter Sunday, 7:15 a.m. The job should have been perfect. £14 million in diamonds, cash and jewelry, split 5 ways, with 30% reserved for the mysterious Marcus Webb. They'd escaped cleanly, left no fingerprints, disabled every camera. But as the firm gathered in Brian's Islington flat to divide the spoils, something was wrong. Carl wasn't there. He left an hour ago, Kenny reported. Said he needed to meet Webb. Said he'd be back by 6. Brian checked his watch. 7:15. Try his mobile. Kenny dialed. The phone rang once, then went to voicemail. At that exact moment, Brian's own phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Turn on Sky News, now. Kenny grabbed the remote. The screen flickered to life. A reporter stood outside the Hatton Garden safe deposit building, surrounded by police tape and flashing blue lights. Confirmation from Scotland Yard that what's being described as the largest burglary in British history has been discovered this morning. Metropolitan Police are reportedly examining CCTV footage from surrounding buildings. A source inside the investigation tells us that several persons of interest have already been identified. Brian's blood froze. The phone buzzed again. Carl is in protective custody. He recorded everything, every meeting, every conversation, every name. In exchange for immunity, he gave them you. Happy Easter, reader. April 7th, 2015, New Scotland Yard. Detective Chief Inspector Paul Johnson had been with the flying squad for 23 years. He'd investigated armed robberies, kidnappings and murders. He thought he'd seen everything. He was wrong. They're calling themselves the Grey Wolves, his sergeant informed him. Average age 63, combined experience, over a century. They drilled through a reinforced vault using equipment so precise, our forensic team says it looks like surgery. Johnson studied the CCTV footage. 4 elderly men, their faces obscured by hats and scarves, moving through Hatton Garden like they owned the night. The informant, Carl Wood. Where is he now? Protected location. MI5 took over his custody this morning. Johnson looked up sharply. MI5? This is a robbery, not espionage. That's what I said, sir. But the documents recovered from the scene, the ones from Box 4217, apparently involve something called Operation Blackstone. MI5 showed up within hours and classified everything. What is Operation Blackstone? The sergeant hesitated. I don't know, sir. But based on what little Carl Wood told us, it involves payments, large payments, from American intelligence sources to British officials, going back decades. Johnson leaned back in his chair. This wasn't a robbery anymore. It was something much, much bigger. And somewhere out there, 4 old men were sitting on top of it. April 9th, 2015, Whitechapel, London. Brian Reeder found Marcus Webb sitting in a basement flat, surrounded by half-packed suitcases and the smell of cheap cigars. Webb looked up as Brian entered. He was thin, gaunt, a scarecrow in a £3,000 suit. You're supposed to be in prison, Webb said calmly. You're supposed to be dead. Brian closed the door behind him. Carl talked. I know. He gave them everything, names, addresses, the safe house in Enfield. They'll trace the equipment, the vehicles, everything leads back to us. Webb shrugged. That was always the plan. Brian went very still. What? The robbery was never about the money, Reader. 14 million is pocket change. What matters is what Danny found in Box 4217, Operation Blackstone. Webb stood slowly, lighting a fresh cigar. 30 years ago, the CIA ran an operation to destabilize the British miners' strike. They funneled money through private accounts, right here in Hatton Garden. Millions, enough to buy politicians, journalists, union leaders. The operation was never declassified, never acknowledged, and the documents in that box prove everything. Brian felt the room tilt. You orchestrated all of this. The robbery, the crew, the tip to the police, just to expose an operation from the 1980s. Not to expose it, to suppress it. Webb's smile was cold. Do you know what those documents are worth to certain parties, governments, intelligence agencies, the men who built their careers on Blackstone, who are now ministers, executives, lords, would pay anything to make those papers disappear? You're blackmailing them. I'm offering a service, discretion, for a price. Brian thought about his daughter, about the treatment she needed, about the £1 million. Where are the documents now? Danny has them. Your young friend decided they were his insurance policy. Webb's eyes glittered. I need you to get them back. Why would I help you? Because the alternative is prison. You're 76 years old, Reader. You'll die in a cell. But if you bring me those documents, I'll give you £2 million and safe passage to Spain. Your daughter gets her treatment. You get your freedom. Everyone wins. Brian stared at the man who had manipulated them all, who had used grief and greed and loyalty to construct an elaborate trap. And if I refuse? Webb exhaled a cloud of smoke. Then the photographs I have, of your wife's car the night she died, of the mechanic who cut her brakes, of the money you paid him. Go to Scotland Yard. You'll be prosecuted for murder, Reader. You'll spend your final years in maximum security, and your daughter will die knowing her father killed her mother. Brian closed his eyes. He thought about Sarah, about the photograph in his nursing home room. Where's Danny? He finally asked. April 11th, 2015, St. Mary's Church, Islington. Danny Jones sat alone in the back pew, a duffel bag beside him containing documents worth more than the diamonds they'd stolen. He looked up as Brian Reeder slid into the seat beside him. I know why you're here, Danny said quietly. Webb sent you. He did. You going to take the papers? Brian looked up at the altar, at the stained glass windows depicting saints and sinners. No, he said finally. I'm going to give you a choice. Danny frowned. What choice? Webb thinks he has leverage over all of us. But the truth is, the only leverage he has is fear. Fear of exposure, fear of prison, fear of dying alone. Brian reached into his jacket and pulled out a small recording device. This is a confession, my confession. Every job, every crime, including what I did to my wife in 1991. Danny stared at the device. You recorded yourself. 14 hours of testimony, everything I've ever done, every secret I've ever kept. I'm going to hand this to Scotland Yard. along with Webb's location, his real identity, and his role in Operation Blackstone. They'll put you away forever. I'm 76 years old, Danny. I don't have forever. Brian pressed the device into Danny's hands. But you do. You're 58. You could disappear. Take those documents. Use them. Not for blackmail, for exposure. Give them to a journalist. Blow the whole thing open. Let the world see what was done in their name. And what happens to you? Brian smiled. A real smile, for the first time in decades. I pay for what I've done. Finally, after all these years. He stood slowly, his joints aching with age. My daughter needs treatment, he said. There's a bank account in Switzerland. The access codes are in your bag. £2 million. Webb's payment. Use it. Make sure Sarah gets what she needs. That's all I ask. Danny looked at the old man before him, the legendary Brian Reader, the master, reduced now to a tired ghost seeking redemption. Why? Danny whispered. Brian buttoned his coat. Because I spent my whole life taking things, from people, from myself, from my family. He paused at the door. I wanted to give something back. Before the end. And then he walked out into the London rain. 6 months later, HMP Belmarsh. The story broke worldwide. Operation Blackstone exposed CIA's secret war on British workers. Grey wolves, inside the heist that shook 3 governments. The Reader confession, veteran criminal turns king's evidence. Marcus Webb was arrested in Dover, attempting to board a ferry to France. He was extradited to the United States and charged with 16 counts of fraud, blackmail, and conspiracy. Carl Wood entered witness protection. He was last seen, according to unconfirmed reports, working as a gardener in New Zealand. Terry Perkins and Kenny Collins pleaded guilty to conspiracy to burgle and received 7-year sentences. Both were released on compassionate grounds within 2 years. Danny Jones vanished. Some say he's in Portugal, others say Argentina. The documents from Box 4217 were published by The Guardian, leading to 3 parliamentary inquiries and the resignation of 2 cabinet ministers. And Brian Reader? He died in prison on November 12, 2015. Heart failure. But before he died, he received a letter, postmarked from Richmond. Dad, the treatment worked. I'm in remission. I don't understand why you did what you did. Any of it. The crimes, the confession, the money you sent. But I want you to know something. Before she died, Mum wrote me a letter. She said you were the most complicated man she'd ever known, that you were capable of terrible things and beautiful things, sometimes in the same breath. I think I finally understand what she meant. I forgive you. For all of it. Your daughter, Sarah. Brian Reader read the letter once, then twice. Then he folded it carefully, placed it against his heart, and closed his eyes. When the guards found him the next morning, he was smiling. Author's note. The Hatton Garden burglary actually happened in April 2015. The real thieves, including Brian Reader and Terry Perkins, were caught, tried, and convicted. Much of the money was never recovered. But some mysteries remain. Who really knew about the heist in advance? What secrets were contained in the boxes that were never catalogued? And how did a group of elderly criminals, dismissed by the world as relics of a forgotten age, nearly pull off the perfect crime? Perhaps some truths are buried too deep to ever surface, like concrete, like memory, like guilt.